have got some news for you today, and we will start with the good news, which is on the screen as I speak. Today, myself and Abdullah engaged with Cricket South Africa match officials, coaches, Geripina Bongani Jele and Lawrence Matrus, and our Cricket South Africa National Match Officials Manager Niels Momberg, who signs the certificates, unfortunately was unable to make it, but we do have good news that our level 2 certificates that all of you worked so hard to pass the exam for will be issued tomorrow. So up to now, we have issued certificates to those candidates who wrote the Cricket South Africa Level 2 umpiring exam at Newlands Cricket Ground. And tomorrow, all the candidates who wrote online and passed, their certificates will be issued and will be emailed by me to all of you individually. So please just give me some time throughout the day to firstly receive all of your certificates, double check the spelling of your names, and then I will send them to you individually by email. So apologies once again for the long wait, but after much deliberation, we have finally come to a positive conclusion, and I thank you all for your patience in this regard. So that was the good news. Unfortunately, it came with some bad news. That meeting today was to discuss the future of Cricket South Africa Level 2 and Level 3 umpiring qualifications. And on this next slide, I have taken a screenshot from those guideline documents. And I'll just talk you through the thinking as well as some of the detail behind what is going to happen going forward. So level 2 should take between 15 and 18 hours, and the theory should comprise of most laws as well as some role play. Training needs to be done at home associations. So where online training is done, that is fine, but we also need, if you look at the last point of the block under level 2, practical training is now a requirement for umpires to be certified with Cricket South Africa level 2, as well as level 3 qualifications. So the bottom of each of those two blocks on the left of the screen, you will see practical training at association level in South Africa is required for umpires to be certified for level 2 as well as level 3 CSA qualifications. So what does that mean for our current course? On the right-hand side of the slide, the screenshot tells us that private participants, and when we speak about private participants, we talk about participants who are not members of any association in South Africa. So any of you who are outside of South Africa, and also any of you in South Africa but are not members of any umpires association in South Africa, this particular statement relates to you. Cricket South Africa has put in place the guideline that only participants can only do level 2 and level 3 if the participant has spent time in the middle as an umpire in South Africa. So you need umpiring experience in South Africa, formal umpiring experience with an umpires association in South Africa going forward to be able to get a Cricket South Africa Level 2 and a Cricket South Africa Level 3 umpiring qualification. So those of you who passed Level 2 in May, you are safe. Your certificates are coming tomorrow. However, for Level 3, unfortunately, you will not qualify if you're not in South Africa or you are not a member of an Umpires Association in South Africa. Instead, what Cricket South Africa is allowing us as Western Province Cricket Umpires Association to offer all of you who can still write the Level 3 Cricket South Africa umpiring exam. If you pass that exam, but you don't have the on-field experience as required by this new guideline, then we will be able to present you with a certificate of attendance from Western Province Cricket Umpires Association. It will not be a formal Cricket South Africa Level 3 umpiring certificate. So that is sobering news, and unfortunately, we had to relay it to you this evening. But this does not stop us from imparting our knowledge and experience as umpires to all of you. And we hope that you will continue to join us for our lectures for the rest of this course. And those of you who still want to write the exam can, at the end of the exam, when passing, receive a Western Province certificate of attendance for Level 3. That will, I think we will work on the wording closer to the time, but it certainly won't be a Cricket South Africa Level 3 umpiring certificate. But please do remember and don't panic. Those of you who passed Level 2 exam in May, you will be getting your Cricket South Africa Level 2 umpiring certificates tomorrow. What we will also be doing going forward is we will be inviting the likes of Alauddin Palika to sessions online for all of you to ask any umpiring related questions. And the thinking and the plan is any sort of recent and relevant scenarios that you might see on TV that you don't understand, please send us the links to those scenarios, and then we will discuss them in separate sessions, not necessarily Level 1 or Level 2 or Level 3 lectures. And we're looking to do that at least once a month after we finish with this particular course. But also, Alauddin Palika couldn't join us this evening because he is still in Sri Lanka, involved in the Sri Lanka versus Bangladesh test series, and also with the one-day international series that's going to start soon. He will be available for our very last lecture, Monday the 14th of July. So there we will unpack all the other ICC playing conditions that have been updated. So please, if you don't join us for the rest of these lectures, do make sure that you join us at least for the 14th of July, when we'll have Palis back with us to take us through the updated playing conditions for limited overs cricket, as well as test matches that we haven't yet covered. So that's quite a mouthful and a bit for all of you to digest. We do just want to take this opportunity to thank all of you for all of your support and your interaction in our lectures over the last 5 years. We've been doing this since the dark days of COVID. In November 2020, I think, was our first online lecture. And we will be continuing, even if it's not as we have been doing previously. But As the ICC is updating playing conditions, we are also evolving our lectures and our sessions to still be inclusive, but we just won't be offering Cricket South Africa Level 2 and Level 3 umpiring qualifications any longer to those of you who are not members of Umpires Association in South Africa. So that will be it from me for now. I am now going to hand over to Abdullah, who's going to take us through the content for this evening. And part of the discussion in today's meeting with Cricket South Africa was the need for us to lecture not only the content that is examined in Cricket South Africa's Level 3 exam. We need, after this course, for our umpires to be at a Level 3 level in terms of knowledge of the laws and application thereof. So we can't just spot present the laws that are being examined. So what we are doing is we started with lecture number 1, where we went through a level 1 refresher. Lecture number 2, we went through a level 2 refresher. And lectures number 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, we are going to be going through not all the laws, but the laws that are most important for level 3 umpires to be au fait with. And they are going to include a lot of calculations, which we haven't seen in level 1 and level 2. And that is where our focus is going to lie for the next couple of lectures. So thank you all once again for your attendance. I'm going to hand over to Abdullah now. And please put your thinking caps on, because these scenarios do get nice and technical. Abdullah, I have stopped sharing, and we will be taking questions at the end of Abdullah's presentation. I'm happy to take any questions about the future of level 2 and level 3 courses, and of course, questions on the content that Abdullah is going to present to us now. Thank you very much. Over to you, Abdullah.
Thank you so much, Tom. Good evening to you, and good evening or good day to the rest of the attendees. I'm kicking off with Law 2, and there's about 15 or 16 subsections under Law 2. I'm not going to cover every single subsection. I'm going to focus on a few of them. The first subsection under Law 2 that I'm going to start with is fair and unfair play. And who are the judges of fair and unfair play? The lawmakers decided that the umpires, and the umpires alone, will be the judges of fair and unfair play. Yes, we, the umpires, we are objective. We not like players or coaches that can be subjective. So seeing that we are objective, we, the umpires, we are the sole judges of fair and unfair play. When it comes to the fitness of play, what did the lawmakers decide when it comes to the fitness of play? Is it up to coaches, captains, the players? Again, coaches, players, captains can be subjective. That's why the lawmakers decided that solely for the two umpires, and the two of them together, they need to decide whether conditions, and it can be ground, weather, or light. And they also guide us with the criteria that we need to use when deciding whether the conditions and the conditions can be ground, weather, or light, whether it is fit to play. And what are those two conditions? Two words. First one is dangerous. That's the first condition. And the second one is unreasonable. So these are the two words that we need to take into account when we decide whether conditions of ground, weather or light is fit to play. Further on, the lawmakers guide us by telling us the definition of what dangerous and unreasonable is, and we'll get to that in the next slide. But for now, umpires alone, they together decide fitness of play, fitness of the ground, the weather, or the light. And the things that they need to take into account is, firstly, is conditions dangerous or is it unreasonable? In the next slide, we'll see what the definitions of these two words are. Further on, lawmakers tell us conditions not to be regarded as dangerous or unreasonable merely because they're not ideal. Sometimes the grass can be a bit wet and the ball then also a bit wet, but this doesn't necessarily warrant the conditions being unreasonable or dangerous. Let's look at the definitions of dangerous or unreasonable. Let's start with dangerous. The definition of dangerous is if there is actual or foreseeable risk to the safety of players or umpires. If we, the umpires, think the safety of players or umpires is compromised, conditions then is dangerous. An example, let's say the square is lots of mud around, it's slippery, and there is potential risk if players run on there, they might slide, go over their ankles. That's just an example of what dangerous mean. There's a risk to the safety of the players. Players might go over their ankles. So that is the definition of dangerous. When it comes to unreasonable, what is this definition according to the lawmakers? They tell us conditions will be unreasonable, even though posing no risk to safety. It would not be sensible for play to proceed. Like an example, a dust storm. I'll use an actual example that happened to me a few years ago. It was a provincial game. Right next to the provincial ground was a huge open, not open field, but there was lots of bushes and trees in the field. It was a hot summer's day, 45 degrees. Suddenly, a fire started in the bushes. There was lots of smoke, and there was a light breeze, and the breeze blew the smoke across the ground. So not a cloud in the sky, but lots of smoke. Uh, Players, umpires, our eyes started to burn. We started to cough. And the umpires, we took the decision to take the players off the field because now we felt conditions were unreasonable. We took them off the field. We waited for the smoke to blow across the ground. Once it was gone, we then allowed play to resume. That's just an example of when conditions are unreasonable. The law makers further guides us on when it comes to the fitness for play, and when we look at the ground. So if the umpires consider the ground to be so slippery or wet, and this wetness deprive the bowler from reasonable foothold, the bowler while running in needs to land on stable ground. So bowler needs to have reasonable foothold while running in to deliver the ball. Also, fielders needs to have power of free movement. You cannot have um, water, puddles of water on the field, and and let's say the captains come to you, no, umpire, we want to play. Don't worry, the players can jump over the water or they can run around the puddles. No, fielders needs to have power of free movement. So if there are puddles or wet patches and there's no power of free movement, that field is not fit to play. When it comes to batters, they need to be able to play their shots. They also need to be able to run between the wickets. If this is compromised, you need to see conditions as dangerous or unreasonable, and you will not allow play to take place. So now, when it comes to the suspension of play in dangerous or unreasonable conditions, the law guides us, and I'm going to give you an example to illustrate how the law works. And again, for the purpose of this course, we focusing on the laws of cricket. There are playing conditions in place for Test and provincial cricket that differ slightly to the law, but according to the law, when it comes to deciding whether to suspend play or not, the lawmakers guide us by telling us the following, and I'll use an actual example to illustrate how it works. It's late in the day, sun is starting to set, and it's becoming a bit dark. Let's say Tom and we're officiating in the game. I look at Tom, and we look at this other in terms of the light. Tom shows me thumbs up, meaning he thinks the light is still okay. And I show to Tom, I think it's too dark. I show my thumbs down. I think light is not good. I think we need to go off. So now Tom thinks it's okay, and I think we should go off. So what does the law tell us? If the umpires don't agree, we need to suspend play. So in this example, because there is no agreement, we need to suspend play and ask the players to leave the field. Again, this is according to the laws of cricket. So now you decided to suspend play, took the players off, sitting now in the various change rooms. So now the law tells us it's the responsibility of umpires to monitor the conditions. Umpires not to sit in the change rooms and let's say watch TV or don't monitor conditions. It's their responsibility. They need to monitor it. They can make inspections as often as they feel, but importantly, the two umpires, when they do make their inspections, they need to do it on their own. Players will try to come to you and try to influence you. Captains will try. Coaches will try. If they do come closer while you're doing your inspections, please tell them, guys or girls, we're busy with our inspection. Give us a few minutes. We'll get back to you with our decision. And then, after doing your inspections, and as soon as both umpires together agree that conditions are now favorable, they will then tell players play can resume. Next subsection under Law 2 is the position of the umpires. So law doesn't tell us exactly where the umpires needs to stand. They don't tell you when it comes to the bowler's end, you must stand a meter behind the stumps or 1.5 meters or 2 meters. All they tell us is, umpires, you need to stand where you can best see and when you that will be able to you to make a decision. When it comes to the bowler's end umpire, bowler's end umpire needs to stand as not to interfere with the bowler's run-up or the striker's view. That's why a practical tip and an important thing before the game starts, umpires needs to line themselves up so that they perfectly sit behind the stumps. And this is for that exact reason, as to not to interfere with the bowler's run-up or the striker's view. You need to be exactly behind the stumps. If you are slightly off, and i.e. not exactly behind the stumps, there is the possibility that the bowler might run into you, might bump into you. It happens. It can actually happen, or even if you directly behind the stumps. You'll find some bowlers lots of arm movements while they are running in, and because of this, lots of arm movements while they run past you, they can at times with their arm, obviously accidentally, bumped into you. It happens quite often. And most of the time, these bumps are it's a slight bump. So what do? If a bowler bumps into you, 9 out of 10 times I leave it. You just feel this grazing of the bowler's arm against you. Let the bowler bowl. You don't do anything. But if the bowler do knock you quite hard and do knock you off your feet, or then you have the option of calling and signaling dead ball. But usually, if they do knock into you, it's just a brush of the arm. I usually don't do anything. I allow play to continue. When it comes to the strikers in umpire, the law also guides us here by telling us strikers in umpire needs to stand on the onside, needs to stand on the leg side, unless there is a reason for the strikers in umpire to stand on the other side. And the law allows for this because you do have sometimes the late setting sun in your eyes if you're standing on the leg side. You do have fielders crowding around the bat, silly point, leg slip that can block your view of the popping crease or the stumps if you're standing on the onside. So the law allows for you in those instances to go stand on the offside. But the default is stand on the onside or leg side. But if you need to stand on the offside, no issue. There's a reason. So when if you do decide to go stand on the offside, you need to inform the captain of the fielding side, the striker, and the other umpire. That's all that we're covering under Law 2. Law 9 is the preparation and the maintenance of the playing area. And this covers the maintenance of the playing area after the game has started. So before the game has started, let's say a test match with Africa, Zimbabwe, day 1, starting at 10 o'clock. So before the game starts, the curator and his or her staff, they will prepare and maintain the playing area. They will get it ready for the test match that's going to start at 10 o'clock on day 1. But as soon as the game starts, and this is what Law 9 is referring to, the game has now started. So how do you maintain the playing area? What are you allowed to do with the field? What are you allowed to do with the pitch? What are you not allowed to do with the field and the pitch? And what are the timings? When are you allowed to do certain things? When are you allowed not to do certain things? This is what Law 9 is covering. So the first thing that we've covering is under Law 9 is mowing, and mowing of the pitch and the outfield. And remember, this is now after the game has started. So can we mow the pitch and the outfield after the game has started? Yes, the law tells us you need to mow the pitch and the outfield on each subsequent day's play. Why? Lawmakers wants to try to keep the condition or the condition of the pitch and the outfield the same throughout the test match. They're going to try to. Yes, I know the pitch do deteriorate as the days go by, but you need to try to keep it exactly the same. That's why pitch and outfield will be mown on day 2, 3, 4, and day 5. You'll be surprised. I've been third umpire for many a provincial game. You'll be surprised how quickly the grass grow overnight under the covers. It is amazing. I saw it with my own eyes. I saw them on the evening of day 1 uh, cover the pits. I saw how short the grass was. The next morning, I got to the field. They removed the covers, and I was surprised to see how quickly the grass grew overnight. So for this reason, to keep conditions the same over the 5 days, the pitch and outfield needs to be mown on each day. Sometimes it is a bit, we can have inclement weather on the morning of day 2 or day 3. So if it's not possible to mow, to complete the mowing of the outfield, we will just inform the captains that unfortunately because of the rain, not possible to mow the outfield, but otherwise pitch and outfield needs to be mowed. So now we know day 2, day 3, day 4, and day 5, pitch and outfield needs to be mowed. When? So let's look at the timing of the mowing. So when it comes to the pitch, all the law tells us is the mowing of the pitch needs to be completed not later than 30 minutes before play is about to start. So if play on day 2 starting at 10 o'clock, mowing of the pitch needs to be done by 9:30. So can you mow 9:25? Yes, you can. Can you mow 9:20? Yes. 9:15? Yes. 9:05? As long as it's done not later than 30 minutes before play is about to start. So in our match, play on day 2 starting at 10, before 9:30, mowing of the pitch needs to be done. So this is mowing of the pitch. What about the outfield? Mowing of the outfield needs to be completed not later than 15 minutes before play is about to start. So day 2 starting at 10 o'clock, by 9:45, mowing of the outfield needs to be done. So practically what happens in a test match, yes, the curator will mow the pitch and the outfield. The fourth umpire will supervise, especially the mowing of the pitch. The curator will not mow the pitch until the fourth umpire arrives. So fourth umpire needs to supervise mowing of the pitch. So are we allowed to clear debris from the pitch? What is this debris? It's a technical term that the lawmakers use. It's those loose stones, loose pebbles that with the bowlers running on the pitch and batters also playing their strokes and running, small pieces of stone or pebbles do come loose. That is the definition of this debris that they're referring to. Are we allowed to clear those small pieces of stone or debris? Yes, the law allows for it. Let's see what the law say. So pitch can be cleared of any debris or shall be cleared of any debris before the start of each day's play, after mowing, and before rolling. Secondly, clear the debris from the pitch between innings. As soon as there's a change of innings, the curator will come on, UC and the staff will then clear the pitch from debris, and it needs to be before rolling. Your tea and your lunch intervals, the ground staff will also clear the pitch from any debris. How will we clear debris from the pitch? By sweeping. There is an exception. So the ground staff will use a broom to clear the debris from the pitch. And the one exception is if the umpires consider that if the ground staff is going to use a broom, that by using the broom, it might be detrimental to the surface of the pitch. It might break the pitch up further. In this case, the debris needs to be cleared by hands. So one of the ground staff will go on their knees and use their hands to clear the debris from the pits. But otherwise, debris to be cleared by sweeping. So after the game has started, are we allowed to roll the pits? Yes or no? Let's have a look. So yes, the law tells us we are allowed to roll the pitch after the game has started. And it's two such occasions. The first one is before the start of each subsequent innings. I'm not now referring to the first innings of our test match. So like day one, let's say Zim South Africa. Africa won the toss and they batted on day one. So after South Africa was dismissed for I think 419 in their first innings, Zimbabwe then went in for their first innings. So before the start of Zimbabwe's innings, the law allows for that pitch to be rolled. So practically, what happens on the day? So as soon as South Africa was dismissed, the on-field umpires will ask the fielding captain, Captain, do you want rolling? The option is on the table. Captain doesn't have to exercise the option, but the option of rolling is there. So, Captain, do you want rolling? Yes, umpire. Then, and we're going to get to the timing. We'll ask how long, and we'll also see in the next slide there are various options of rolling available. But the point I'm now trying to make is, so before the start of each subsequent innings, the now batting captain has the option of rolling. So before the start of Zimbabwe's first innings, they can roll. Before the start of South Africa's second innings, they can roll. And then before the start of Zim's second innings, they can also roll. So that's the first instance when the rolling is allowed after the game has started. The next instance when the rolling is allowed is before the start of each subsequent day's play. So before the start of day 2, rolling is allowed. Before the start of day 3, rolling is allowed. Similarly, day 4 and before the start of day 5, rolling is allowed. So now we know when this rolling is allowed after the game has started. So just to recap, it's before the start of each subsequent innings and then also before the start of each subsequent day's play. How long may the captain roll? All the law tells us is not more than 7 minutes. So can the captain ask for 5 minutes of rolling? Yes, he can. 4 minutes, yes. 3 minutes, yes. 1 minute, of course they can. If the captain asks you for 9 minutes, you're going to say, unfortunately not, captain. Max is 7. So I'm going to ask the curator to roll for 7 minutes. So not more than 7 minutes. So now we know the duration, and now we know the two instances when rolling can take place. In terms of the timing of these rolling, before the start of each subsequent innings, there's a 10-minute change of innings scheduled interval, and the rolling before the start of each innings will take place during that 10 minutes. Before the start of each subsequent day's play, let's say play starts on 10 o'clock on day 2, when can we roll? There is a window period for this rolling to take place. A 20-minute window period. If play starts on 10 o'clock on day 2, that 20-minute window period is between 9:30 and 9:50. So anytime between those times, rolling of the pitch. So before this is now before the start of day 2, same thing before the start of day 3 and 4 and 5. So this is the theory. Let me just give you 1 or 2 examples to tell you how practically this is applied. And before we get to the practical application, I want to take you to the next slide, which speaks about rollers. You'll find at most international venues, they have 3 rollers available. A big one, which is on the right-hand side. Then there's a medium one, which is bottom left. And then top left is a hand roller. That's what most international grounds, 3 rollers available. At some grounds, you'll find 2 rollers available. Maybe a hand one and a big one, or a hand one and a medium one, or a medium and a big one. You need to find that out from the curator before the game starts, how many rollers available. If there's only 1 roller available, then we'll have to just do with the 1 roller. But at most international and provincial grounds across the world, you'll definitely find more than 1. Definitely at least 2, but most grounds have 3. That's at international level. So practically, when it comes to rolling of the pitch, so what happens? Let's use the rolling that's going to happen before the start of each subsequent innings. Let's use the South Africa-Zimbabwe test match as an example. So South Africa batted first, dismissed for 419. Soon as that 10th wicket fell, the on-field umpires will then go to the captain of Zimbabwe, asking Craig, do you want rolling? If yes, how long you want? And which roller do you want? There's 3 available, the hand, the medium, and the big one. Craig then needs to inform the umpires, yes umpires, I do want rolling, I want the big one for 7 minutes. The on-field umpires relay that information to the 4th umpire, who in turn will relay that message to the curator, who will then, while there's a 10-minute change of innings, the 4th umpire will be on the field, and the 4th umpire will be supervising this 7-minute of rolling. Again, the option of rolling is on the table. Captain can decide, no, I don't want rolling. It is his or her prerogative, but the option is on the table. So that is practically how it works before the start of each subsequent innings. How does it work practically before the start of each subsequent day's play? So let's say day 2 starts at 10 o'clock. Teams, umpires are there 2 hours before play starts. So as soon as the umpires get to the field, the 4th umpire will take a walk to the now batting side. You see the 4th umpire will look for the batting captain. Why is the 4th umpire looking for the batting captain? 4th umpire is going to ask the batting captain whether he or she wants rolling, and if yes, how long, and also then which roller. So let's use this Zim SA test match as an example. So Zim is currently batting. I think overnight I think it's 20 for 1. So tomorrow day 5, day starts at 10 o'clock. So the morning, 4th umpire will go to Zimbabwean captain Craig, asking Craig, do you want rolling this morning? If yes, how long and which roller? That information, the 4th umpire will relay to the curator, and that rolling will now need to happen in the window period 9:30 to 9:50, and the 4th umpire will supervise that rolling. So that this procedure happens on each subsequent day, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5. That will be exact procedure. Whoever's batting the morning, 4th umpire will go to that particular captain. Last law that I'm covering is the interval law. Firstly, we're going to cover what are, according to the law, scheduled intervals. What are scheduled intervals? These are intervals that's decided by the governing body before the game starts. So we know exactly when these intervals is going to be. There are 5 of them. Firstly, the period between close of play on day one or on the one day and the start of the next day's play, that is seen in the law as a scheduled interval. I use our Zim in South Africa Test match as an example. Day one starting at 10 and ending at 5, and day two starting at 10 again. So when we get to close of play, 5 o'clock on day one, from that moment, right up until 10 o'clock on day two, so that time period between 5 o'clock on day one and 10 o'clock on the morning of day two, that is seen as a scheduled interval according to the laws. Your interval between innings, also a scheduled interval. Interval for meals, i.e. your lunch or your tea interval, scheduled intervals. Interval for drinks, scheduled interval. Any other agreed interval, last example of a scheduled interval. So the timings of these intervals, they are set by the governing body of cricket for that particular competition. This in terms of timings for interval between innings, meals, and drinks. The International Cricket Council, they govern Test match cricket, and they decided when it comes to interval between innings, 10 minutes, interval for your lunch, 40, interval for your tea, 20 minutes, and interval for drinks, 4 minutes. So when it comes to the duration of these intervals, so all the law tell us is, yes, okay, the governing body, you decide how long the interval should be. All we guiding you as the law is when that interval starts and when play should resume. So I'll give you a few examples to illustrate exactly how the law want us to apply this. If I can use lunch as an example, how to apply the interval for lunch, which is 40 minutes, and where the law tell us that 40 minutes to be taken from the call of time before the interval until the call of play on the resumption after the interval. I use a few examples to illustrate how this works. Let's say in our test match, lunch is from 12 till 12:40. So the 6 legal delivery in the overs bowled at exactly 12 o'clock. And practically what will happen? Bowlers in umpire to call over, time, and lunch. So looking at these watts, it's exactly 12 o'clock. So now the law tells us first ball after lunch needs to be bowled exactly 40 minutes later, which is 12:40. So we're taking an exactly 40-minute lunch interval. Another example. Again, our scheduled time for our lunch is 12 till 12:40. We all know that most of the time we don't end exactly at 12 o'clock. There are 99% of the time we get to 12 o'clock and we're only midway through the over, or we've bowled a few balls in the over. What do? Law tell us we need to first complete the over before we can take lunch. So now we get to 12 o'clock, we see we're midway through the over. Law tells us that we now need to first complete the over, then we take lunch. So now after completing the over, we get to 12:03, and now the bowlers in umpire calls over, time, and lunch. So when must the first ball after lunch be bowled? If we came off the field at 12:03, exactly 40 minutes later, which is 12:43. Again, last example, scheduled lunch from 12 to 12:40. Now the fielding side takes a wicket at 11:58. So now what happens next? Again, law guides us. When a wicket falls with less than 3 minutes to go to the interval to be taken immediately. So now with the wicket falling at 11:58 and this being less than 3 minutes to go, we need to take the interval at 11:58. So since we took the interval at 11:58, we need to restart exactly 40 minutes later, which is first ball after lunch needs to be bowled at 12:38. When it comes to the duration for our change of innings interval, exactly 10 minutes. And it will start as soon as the innings close and it will restart on the call of play. Just an example, Team A gets dismissed at 11:10. There's a 10-minute change of innings interval, so first ball to Team B needs to be bowled at 11:20. Team A gets dismissed at 14:13. 10-minute change of innings interval, first ball needs to be bowled at 14:23. So what we're going to focus on next is we now know our timings for our intervals. We now know lunch is 12 till 12:40. We know tea is 14:40 till 3 o'clock in our test match. So what the lawmakers decided was they brought in flexibility into our intervals. And we are going to now look at what flexibility they brought in to our various intervals. In particular, our change of innings interval, our lunch interval, our tea interval, and our drinks interval. So many years ago, there were no flexibility in our intervals. If lunch was 12 o'clock, we will take lunch at 12 no matter what happens. So as time went by, the lawmakers decided they need to bring in a bit of flexibility when it comes to our intervals. Why the flexibility? Because of the flexibility, it allows you to maximize play during the day. So it allows you now to start changing your timings of your intervals slightly so that you can play more cricket during the day. So firstly, we're going to focus on what flexibility the lawmakers brought into the change of innings interval. And this flexibility is in order for us to try to maximize play, to play as much cricket as possible on the day. Then after this, we're going to look at flexibility to our lunch, then our tea, and then our drinks interval. And again, for the purpose of this course, we're focusing on the laws of cricket and not playing conditions. So, when it comes to our interval between innings, let's look at the first flexibility that the lawmakers brought into. They decided that when an innings ends 10 minutes or less to the close of play, it will then be stumps. Yes, we ended early, but we will not start early the following day. That is the theory. Let's look at a few examples to show you how the theory works. So in our test match, our hours of play is 10 till 5. Side A gets dismissed at 16:50. What happens next? So in this example, we can activate this clause 3.1 because this clause tells us if an innings ends 10 minutes or less to stumps, and in this example with close of play being 5 o'clock, and the side getting dismissed at 16:50, and that is 10 minutes to the close of play, it will be stumps at 16:50. It will be close of play at 16:50 because this is now 10 minutes or less to go to close of play. Further on, the law tells us, yes, we ended 10 minutes early. So instead of ending 5 o'clock, we ended 16:50. But in this instance, we will not start 10 minutes earlier the next day. Another example, again, when it comes to the allowances of interval between innings and the flexibility the lawmakers brought into it. So side A gets dismissed at 16:54 with close of play being at 5 o'clock. What happens next? Again, we can activate the clause 3.1 that we've covered in the previous slide. This is 6 minutes to go till close of play. So this is 10 minutes or less to close of play. So it will be close of play at 16:54. Yes, we ended 6 minutes earlier, but we will not start 6 minutes earlier the following day. Last example. Side A gets dismissed at 16:48. What happens next? So our close of play is 5. 16:48, the side is dismissed. So this is now 12 minutes to go till close of play. So can we activate clause 11.3.1 where it says if an innings ends 10 minutes or less, we will take it will be close of play? No, we cannot activate that clause because this is 12 minutes to go till close of play. So what will we do in this instance? We will now take a 10-minute change of innings. So that 10-minute change of innings will be from 16:48 till 16:58. So first ball to side B will be bowled at 16:58, and we need to play till 5 o'clock. We'll probably only get an over in. Next, flexibility that the lawmakers brought in when it comes to the interval between innings. And let's just go through the theory first. And then once we see an actual example, we'll see how easy it is, or we'll see how the theory works. Much easier than just reading the theory. So if a captain declares an innings close during either a scheduled interval or an interruption of more than 10 minutes, provided there's at least 10 minutes remaining of this interruption or interval, we can include the 10-minute change of innings into this interruption or into this interval. There is a but if less than 10 minutes remains of the interruption or interval, and then the captain declares, we need to then have a 10-minute change of innings interval. Okay, that's the theory. I've got a few examples to show you how 3.2 works. But for now, if a captain declares an innings during interruption or interval, more than 10 minutes. Let's look at a few examples. Example 1. Our lunch is 12 till 12:40. Final ball is bowled at 12:02. Bowlers in umpire calls over time in lunch. So if we took lunch at 12:02, when must the first ball after lunch be bowled? Correct. At 12:42. But we'll get there. But for now, and I'm also going to show you practically what happens. So team A is currently on 426 for 5. Now at 12:20, the captain of team A comes knock on the umpire's door and informing the umpires, umpire, we are declaring. This is now 12:20. So what happens next? So now, because we're still in lunch, and we know lunch ends, the first ball needs to be bowled at 12:42. So there's still 22 minutes left of our lunch interval. We will now have a change of innings interval. We will then go to the captain of team B, informing him or her of the declaration, and then we will also then just practically we will ask the captain, now do you want rolling? If yes, which roller, and then how long you want rolling. So this change of innings will be from 12:20 till 12:30. But seeing that we're still in our lunch interval, we will include or incorporate this change of innings interval into our lunch interval. So we're happy that the first ball after lunch can be bowled at 12:42. Let's look at another example. With our lunch being 12 till 12:40. Final ball bowled at exactly 12:01. And bowlers in umpire calls overtime and lunch. So seeing that we took lunch at 12:01, when must the first ball after lunch be bowled? Well done. At 12:41. 40 minutes later. Okay, team A is currently on 355 for 7. So now At 12:33, the captain of Team A informs us, I am declaring. So seeing that first ball needs to be bowled at 12:41, but now the declaration is at 12:33. So technically, there's only 8 minutes left of the lunch interval. But now this is where the law comes in. We need to be fair on the opposing side. We cannot now expect them to, in 8 minutes' time, to now suddenly be ready. The openness needs to be padded up, and also in because there was a innings change, and we heard earlier that as soon as there is an innings change, the now captain of the batting side is entitled to rolling. So we then need to go ask, do you want rolling? How long? And which roller? So practically what will happen when there's this declaration at 12:33, we will go to the opposing captain, informing him or her that they've just declared. We will then ask, do you want rolling? How long? And which roller? But since this declaration was made less than 10 minutes remaining of the lunch interval, we now need to be fair on the other side. We now need to allow for a 10-minute change of innings interval. This is different to the first example where there was 22 minutes left, so we could easily have incorporated into the lunch interval. But because there's now less than 10 minutes, in our example, 8 minutes to go, we need to be fair on the other side. We need to give them fair chance to pair up. Also, rolling needs to happen. So we will now have a 10-minute change of innings. So this 10-minute change of innings will be from 12:33 until 12:43. First ball of the lunch to be bowled at 12:43. So those were the instances when it comes to our change of innings interval where there was a bit of flexibility, where we can see how we can maximize time, how we can play more cricket in the day. Okay, next, before we move on to the flexibility that was brought into our lunch interval, our tea interval, and our drinks interval, there's this catch-all clause that the lawmakers brought, that's part of the law, where it tells us it gives the power to the umpires and the two captains to at any time change the time of the lunch or the tea interval if playing time is lost through adverse conditions, whether it's rain or bad light or lightning, to name three examples. So this is like a catch-all clause giving us, when I say us, the two umpires and the two captains, at any time it gives you that power. You can at any time change your times of your lunch or your tea. But there is one condition, and that condition is if you're going to start changing it, you need both umpires and both captains to agree. If that is the case, we can then change our timings of our lunch and our tea interval. But it must be that we lost time through adverse conditions, whether it's ground, it could be rain, it could be bad light, it could be lightning, whatever the case may be. So after this catch-all clause, we're now going to get to specific instances where certain things happen, and we're going to first start with our lunch interval. Something is going to happen, and when this happens, the law instructs us, you will take and you will take an early tea, like early lunchtime, like in this example. So if this happens, no need for captains or umpires to agree. The law instructs us we will take an early lunch interval. And what is this first example? What is this first flexibility that the lawmakers brought into when it comes to our lunch interval? If an innings ends 10 minutes or less to our lunchtime, we will then take the lunch immediately. Our lunch will be 40 minutes, and we will incorporate or include our change of innings interval into our lunch interval. So this is the first flexibility that the lawmakers brought into when it comes to our lunch interval. Let's look at an example to illustrate how the theory works. So with our lunch being from 12 till 12:40, Team A gets dismissed at 11:52. So what happens next? We can activate clause 11.5.1. What does 11.5.1 tell us? If an innings ends 10 minutes or less to the lunch interval, take lunch immediately. In our example, it's 8 minutes to go to lunch. Hence, we can take lunch immediately. So now we took lunch at 11:52. When must the first ball after lunch be bowled? 40 minutes later, which is 12:32. And this change of innings interval, we will include it in our lunch, seeing that our lunch is 40 minutes. So this is the first flexibility that the lawmakers brought into when it comes to our lunch. And no need for captains to agree in this when this happens, but the conditions needs to be in place, and innings needs to end 10 minutes or less. We can activate this clause and take an early lunch. Okay, next. Again, flexibility that the lawmakers brought into when it comes to our lunch interval. If due to adverse conditions, whether it's rain, lightning, let's use the rain as an example, and we stop play, we leave the field with 10 minutes or less to go to lunch, we will take lunch immediately. Lunch will be our agreed duration and play to resume at the end of our lunch interval or as soon as conditions permit. Okay, let's look at an example to illustrate how the theory works. Our lunch is from 12 till 12:40. 11:54 it starts to rain and players leaves the field. So what happens next? So since it started raining, 10 minutes or less to go to lunch, we can activate this clause 11.5.2, which tells us if an innings ends 10 minutes or less, if a stoppage occurs 10 minutes or less to lunch, we will take lunch immediately. So we left the field at 11:54. We will take lunch immediately, with our lunch interval being 40 minutes. First ball after lunch, if conditions permit, needs to be bowled at 12:34. So again, here we don't need captains to agree, nothing. If this happens, we can activate this clause, but what needs to happen? A stoppage needs to occur, and it needs to be 10 minutes or less to lunch. Then we can activate this clause. We don't need to ask the captains. We will tell the captains, because it's 10 minutes or less to lunch, we will now take an early lunch. It will start now at 11:54, and hopefully conditions permit, we can restart at 12:34. The last flexibility that the lawmakers brought into when it comes to our lunch interval. Here they tell us, if players, and there's a reason for the players to leave the field with more than 10 minutes to go to lunch, and the emphasis on more than 10 minutes. Now what needs to happen? Now we need both umpires and captains to agree to change our lunch interval. And if they do agree, we can take an early lunch. If they don't agree, lunch needs to then be taken at the agreed time. Okay, that's the theory. Let's look at an example to illustrate how the theory works. Our lunch is 12 till 12:40. 11:46 it starts to rain. So what happens next? So with lunch being at 12 and it starts raining at 11:46, this is now 14 minutes to go to our lunch interval when it started to rain. We saw in on the previous slide where it said if it rains 10 minutes or less, we can take an early lunch. But because this is 14 minutes or less, we cannot activate the previous clause because it's 14 minutes. You can only activate the previous clause on the previous slide if it's 10 minutes or less. This is 14 minutes to go to lunch. Now what needs to happen? Now we now need to go to the captains, or what will practically happen? Umpires will go to the captains. The captains, it's 11:46, 4 minutes to go, 14 to go to lunch. Are you happy that we take lunch immediately? If both captains say yes, we're happy, we will then take lunch at 11:46, and the first ball will be bowled 40 minutes later. If one captain say, no umpire, I'm not happy to take an early lunch, nothing we can do about it, we then need to take lunch at the agreed time, which is 12 o'clock. So what will happen to this 14 minutes? Yeah, it will, unfortunately, we will lose 14 minutes due to rain. But in this instance, and flexibility that the lawmakers brought into the lunch here is, and to activate this clause, players needs to leave the field with more than 10 minutes. So if they do leave the field more than 10 minutes, there's a condition that needs to be met for you to take an early lunch. Both captains and umpires needs to agree. If there's no agreement, we need to take lunch at the agreed time. So now we've covered the flexibility that the lawmakers brought into our lunch interval. Let's have a look at tea. Let's see what flexibility there is when it comes to our tea interval. We start off by when an innings ends. And when it comes to tea, the law tells us if an innings ends when 30 minutes or less to go to tea, we will then take tea immediately. Tea will be 20 minutes, and we'll incorporate our change of innings interval into our tea interval. So let's look at an example to illustrate how this practically works. It's actually the same principle to the lunch. There's just a difference in the timing, with lunch being if an innings ends 10 minutes or less, compared to tea time if an innings ends 30 minutes or less. So in this example, with tea being 14:40 till 3, side A gets dismissed at 14:18. So what happens next? Because this is 22 minutes to go to tea, so this innings ended 30 minutes or less to tea, we will take tea immediately. Tea will be, as agreed, the 20 minutes, and it will be 14:18 till 14:38. We will include the change of innings interval into our tea interval. So this is the first flexibility that the lawmakers brought into when it comes to our tea interval. Okay, but it must be an innings ending 30 minutes or less. Okay, let's look at next flexibility that the lawmakers brought into it. Let's look at the theory first, and then we apply the theory practically. So when 30 minutes remain before the agreed time for tea, there's already an interval of change of innings interval in progress. We need to have the 10-minute change of innings interval. Play will then restart, and we will play until the scheduled tea interval time. Okay, that's the theory. Let's look at an example to show how the theory works. So with tea being from 14:40 till 1500, Team A gets dismissed at 14:02. So what happens next? So this is now 38 minutes to go to tea. We saw in the previous slide, if an innings ends 30 minutes to tea, then we can take an early tea. But this is 38 minutes to go to tea. So now we cannot activate the previous clause on the previous page. Now we need to do what 6.2 is telling us. And that is, we now need to take a 10-minute change of innings from 14:02 till 14:12. First ball of Teams B innings needs to be bowled at 14:12. We will then play from 14:12 until the scheduled tea interval, which is 14:40. More flexibility when it comes to our tea interval. If through adverse conditions, whether it's ground weather or light, rain, lightning, bad light, whatever the case may be, and players needs to leave the field or a stoppage occurs 30 minutes or less to go to tea, we will take tea immediately. Same principle as in our lunch interval. The only difference is the timing, because when it comes to lunch said if an innings if the stoppage occurs 10 minutes or less, we'll take lunch immediately. Tea, same principle, but if an innings ends 30 minutes or less, we will then take an early tea. Let's look at an example to illustrate how the theory works. With our tea being 14:40 till 3 o'clock, 14:26 it starts to rain. What happens next? We can activate the previous clause on the previous slide. Since this stoppage occurred 30 minutes to tea, we'll take tea immediately. Tea will be 20 minutes, so from 14:26 till 14:46. So first ball after tea to be bowled at 14:46 if conditions permit. More flexibility to our tea interval. What is 6.4? A stoppage is already in progress when 30 minutes remains before the agreed time for tea. And if this is the case, we can bring tea 30 minutes forward, tea then to be the agreed duration, play then to resume at the end of the tea interval or as soon as conditions permit. Okay, that's the theory. Let's see how it practically works. So without tea being 14:40 till 1500, at 1400 hours it starts to rain. What happens next? So with tea being at 14:40 and it raining at 2 o'clock, this is now 40 minutes to go till tea. So we saw on the previous slide, if an innings ends 30 minutes or less, we can take an early tea. But this is now not 30 minutes to tea, this is 40 minutes to tea. So now, what happens next? So now we know we cannot take an early tea at 2 o'clock because it's 40 minutes to tea. But now what we can do is, when we get to 14:10, then we can officially take tea. Why only at 14:10? Because at 14:10, we are now 30 minutes from tea. So now, because we're 30 minutes from tea, we can now take and bring tea forward by 30 minutes. Tea will then be from 14:10 till 14:30. First ball to be bowled at 14:30 if weather conditions permitting. Lastly, when it comes to our lunch and our tea interval, flexibility that the lawmakers brought into. 9 wickets down. What happens if a side is 9 wickets down when it comes to our lunch or our tea interval? Again, they brought this flexibility in. They've seen over the years that when a side is 9 wickets down, and no disrespect to the number 10 or number 11 batters in the audience, but they usually don't bat as long as your top order or your middle order. There are these lots of stats to prove that the 10th wicket don't usually last that long. So then the lawmakers decided, okay, seeing that we've know this, we've got stats to back it up. So let's see if we can save time. So what did they do? They decided that if a side is 9 wickets down when we get to either our lunch or our tea interval, but the side must be 9 down. It cannot be 8 down or 7 down or 4 down or 3 down. It must be 9 wickets down. And if they're 9 wickets down, we can delay play or we can play a maximum of 30 minutes extra to see whether the fielding side can take the 10th wicket, but only a max of 30 minutes. So you can only play a further max of 30 minutes, and we're going to go through an example to show you how it works. What if you do get to 30 minutes later and you haven't taken the wicket? What do you do? And if you do take the wicket within 30 minutes, also then what do you do? So let's look at the example. But keep in mind, what does the law say? Side must be 9 wickets down. And if there is at lunch or tea, doesn't matter. We're going to use lunch as an example, but same principle apply. If they're 9 wickets down, we will delay our interval max 30 minutes. So our example, let's use tea. We know our tea is 14:40 till 3 o'clock. Team A is 212 for 9 when the final ball is bowled at 14:40. So what happens next? Do we take tea? We know tea is at 14:40. No, the law instructs us you cannot take tea. It tells us because the side is 9 wickets down, you cannot take tea, you need to play on. So how long do we play on? We can only extend the session by a max of 30 minutes. So the latest we can play until is 15:10. So we should have taken tea at 14:40. Because the side is 9 down, the law tells us don't take tea. You need to play on max of 30 minutes. So now we're going to get to the two examples where, let's say we now know we get to 14:40, we must play on. And we can play a max of 30. So in the first example where, let's say we get to 3 o'clock. So remember we extended the session from 14:40, but we can only play max 30 minutes. Now we get to 3 o'clock, which is 20 minutes later. Now the fielding side gets the 10th wicket. Now at 3 o'clock, we will take tea immediately. Tea will be then from 3 o'clock till 20 past, and we will incorporate our change of innings interval into our tea interval. Another example. Let's say team B fails to take the final wicket by 15:10. What is 15:10? This is the maximum allowed time of 30 minutes that we give the fielding side to try to take the 10th wicket. So T should have been 14:40. We give them max 30 minutes. So 15:10. If we get to 15:10, we're at the end of the over and they haven't taken the final wicket. What happens now? Now we must take T. We cannot play on forever. We've given them 30 minutes. Yeah, we've tried to save a bit of time, but unfortunately we cannot. They couldn't take the wicket in 30 minutes. So now we need to take tea at 15:10, and the break will be from 15:10 until 15:30. And lastly, before I hand over to Tom, when it comes to flexibility to our drinks interval, firstly, the law does tell us drinks not to be more than 5 minutes. In Test match cricket, the International Cricket Council, they decided that drinks to be 4 minutes. So what flexibility did the lawmakers bring into our drinks interval to maximize time? They did the following. They said, if a wicket falls or a batter retires within 5 minutes to drinks, we will take drinks immediately. But this wicket needs to fall or a batter needs to retire within 5 minutes. If it's not within 5 minutes, you'll play on. Okay, that's the theory. Let's look at an example to illustrate how the theory works. So drinks scheduled from in our test match 11 until 11:04. We get to 19.1 balls that were bowled on day one, and a wicket falls at 10:56. What happens next? Since this wicket fell 5 minutes to drinks, we will take drinks immediately. We're trying to save a bit of time. We let the next batter come in, but we'll take drinks. Drinks will then be for 4 minutes from 10:56 until 11 o'clock. And they took the wicket off the first ball, so there's 5 balls remaining in the over. So after the drinks break, we will then complete the 5 balls. Second example, drinks being from 11 till 11:04. After 15.4 overs bowled on day 1, a wicket falls at 10:54. Now what happens next? So since this wicket didn't fall within 5 minutes to drinks, we cannot take an early drinks. There's 6 minutes to go to the official drinks break at 11. Because there's 6 minutes to go, we cannot take an early drinks. We now need to let the incoming batter come face the 5th ball of the over, and we will take drinks at the scheduled time of 11 o'clock. Tom, that is all I'm covering. Yeah, I've covered just the flexibility that the lawmakers brought into our various scheduled intervals, how we can maximize play uh, throughout the day. We've also covered Law 9, which speaks about maintenance of the playing area after the game has started, and we did Law 2, the umpires. Thank you so much. Handing back to you.
Thank you very much, Abdullah. And I hope and I'm sure that the candidates who have stayed with us have learned quite a bit. These are the nuances that we will be taking you through in the next 3 weeks up until our final lecture on the 14th of July. And I'm glad that a lot of you have stayed on for the rest of the lecture. Now we're going to go into our question and answer session. And before we do that, I'm just going to go into the meeting settings to allow everyone to participate accordingly. So I'm going to be activating microphones as well as cameras for attendees if anybody would like to put their hand up for any questions. Up to now, we have got a couple of comments in the chat box. First one from T. He is part of the Free State Cricket Umpires Association, and they've got a planning meeting from 7 p.m. So he had to leave. Thank you for joining us earlier, T. The next question is from Conrad van Dijk. If you are not part of an umpires association in South Africa and you write level 3 exam with WPCUA at the end of the month, can you join an association, do the practical, and then receive your formal certificate? What is the timeline for this? Conrad, the first question is easy. Yes, you can join an association at any point in time after you have successfully passed Cricket South Africa's level 1 umpiring exam. So all of you on here in South Africa at least will have passed level 1 and now level 2 as well. So you need to tell me which part of the country you are in, and I will give you the contact details for the association closest to you, and you will be able to start umpiring in an official capacity in your area. How long will it take for them to recognize you as a Cricket South Africa level 3 umpire and issue you a CSA certificate? That I cannot answer. Every umpires association in South Africa is different in terms of the requirements as to what they feel a level 3 umpire needs and is. So you will and it's not, the practical is not an exam. There's not an assessment currently for you to tick boxes A to Z and say, yes, you are now qualified as a CSA Level 3 umpire. Each association has got what's called assessors, and they go around the province throughout the season on a Saturday, watching the various umpires in the association. They will feed back to the training department and note any areas of improvement for particular umpires. If there is a trend amongst the umpires association that needs to be addressed, then the training department will address that in the monthly meetings. If the issue is specific to an umpire who needs specific development, the training department will contact that umpire individually to upskill on the identified area for improvement. So I cannot tell you, even for us as Western Province Cricket Umpires Association, if you were to join us and you were to write on the 19th or the 21st of June at Newlands Cricket Ground, then we would take it to the executive committee. At one of our exco meetings, we will discuss what does this umpire need to do to get his or her level 3 certificate. Yes, they've passed the exam, but what practical elements do we need to see in them to be able to stamp their qualification as CSA level 3? So apologies for the lack of clarity and maybe the detail that you were looking for in that answer, Conrad. This is all very new to us, and we as a training department for Western Province Cricket Umpires Association are still unpacking the details of the meeting we had this morning with Cricket South Africa, and other associations will be doing the same. So best to, if you do want the formal qualification, get in touch with the Umpires Association in South Africa closest to you and start engaging with them and take it from there. I hope that somewhat answers your question, Conrad. Next hand up is Dr. Malati from the USA, if I'm not mistaken. Malati, please unmute your microphone. The floor is yours.
Hi, Tom. Yes, I am from the US. I'm from Atlanta. Thank you so much for this lectures again. I have two questions actually. So one is regarding the examination. Last time, I know I had asked you, right? So you said that any other, like for example, okay, let me actually tell you. So West Indies exam association thing, I have completed level 3 already. So I wanted to know if that qualifies me to take the level 3 for the CSA, because I did only level 1 on this before.
Malati, everyone is different in terms of what they offer in terms of qualifications around the world. Yes, obviously West Indies are a test playing nation or association, being a group of nations. And I would be happy to allow you to write Cricket South Africa's level 3 umpiring exam with the qualification you have from the West Indies. However, it's not my call, so we would have to take that up with the powers that be, and I can get back to you by Thursday when we have our next lecture. What you can do in the meantime is please email me your West Indies level 3 umpiring certificate to.
Certificate, okay.
You've got my email address.
Yes, I can do that. I can do that.
And I will forward it to the Cricket South Africa match officials, coaches that we've been engaging with this morning, and they will be able to give us guidance as to what we can and cannot allow with your situation.
Okay, thank you. I'll send you that, Tom. Thank you so much. The
Sure.
other question I had is regarding the lecture today. So what my question is, I know the rolling we are talking of between innings as maximum of 7 minutes and all that, right? So my question is actually, is do we follow the same time limit for rolling, even if we do it in between the games? What I mean is not between the innings. I understand you will be doing between day 1 and day 2, but what, for example, if we have, say, T20 games, right? I'm talking of local leagues as well. So if we have, say, 2 T20s, which means we'll have 2 games in a day. So in between the games, if we roll the pitch, do we still stick to 7 minutes maximum, or do we don't have the time limit there?
Good question. Abdullah, do you want to take that one? Is there a limit as to how much rolling can be done before the start of a match? Whether it's one T20 match in the morning and another one in the afternoon, or even simply before the start of a test match on the morning of day 1, how much rolling can be done, if any? Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Doc. The timings that I covered earlier this evening in the lecture refers to the in-game timings, and I used a test match as an example, and those timings will be applicable for as long as that particular test match is ongoing. So as soon as the game starts 10 o'clock on day 1, in terms of the rolling of the pitches, only 7 minutes up until day 5, and I've said only between change of innings and then before the start of each subsequent day's play. So those timings only applicable in game. Between games, there's no restriction, Doc. So to use your example, 2 T20s in your first T20, where one side will face, let's say the morning game starting at 10, there'll be 20 overs aside. After 20 overs, the other side will go bat. There'll be, let's say, 20-minute break. The one side is then permitted to have a rolling, and in that rolling will be then not more than 7 minutes. So now that game is done. Let's say 1 o'clock game is done. Next second T20 starts at 3 o'clock. So now between 1 and 3 o'clock, this is now the 3 o'clock game is a different game, Doc. So now there's no restriction, Doc. So between 1 o'clock and 3 o'clock, between those games, the curator can prepare the pitch to what he or she sees fit, meaning if the curator wants to roll that pitch from 1:30 till 2:30, absolutely no issue. If that is what the UC wants to do to get the pitch ready for the 3 o'clock game, that is what they can do. So no restriction, Doc, between 2 games. The restrictions only come in a particular game. Did I answer your question, Doc?
Okay. Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah.
You're welcome, Doc.
I did not know that before. Thank you so much.
No, you're most welcome, Doc. Over to you, Tom.
Thanks, Dula. I believe the limit up until the preparation of the pitch and the outfield for a match is when the toss takes place. So up to 30 minutes before the start of a match, then all rolling must be completed. Please confirm.
Yes.
Happiness. Great. Doc, Vikram has got a question for you, and I'd like to answer it, but I would like your answer first. He wants to know what is the advantage of doing level 3 with 2 different countries? Would one certificate not work with all test playing countries? So firstly, I want you to tell Vikram why you feel there is a need or at least a want from your side to do Cricket South Africa's level 3 as well as West Indies level 3.
Is this question for me, Tom?
Yes, so Vikram has written in the chat box asking
Oh, okay. I didn't see the chat actually. Okay. So what I have heard here is like since the West Indies this thing is combined with the USA, so the examinations we take here is combined only for sorry, it's useful if we are going to be umpiring in US or West Indies. But if at all we need to umpire, say for example, in South Africa, then I don't think this examination is valid there. That's what I understood, at least from talking to people here. And that's the reason I know some of them have done even like Australia exam, New Zealand exam, and South Africa exam. And so I thought it will be useful to uh, sorry, I got cut off in between. But actually, personally speaking, in my own experience, I also feel that at least attending these lectures and taking up these different examinations gives us more, understanding and also more experience on the laws itself, at least personally speaking. So that also helps. That's my take on this.
Great answer. Thanks, Malati, for giving your side of the story. And I want to highlight the last part of what Malati has said is every qualification around the world is different in terms of how it is presented and how it is acquired. So I know West Indies has always required practical assessments. So previously in Cricket South Africa, we were only a theory-based qualification. So there was some criticism around the cricketing world that how can you have Cricket South Africa level 1, 2, and 3 qualifications without any practical assessments? So this is part of the reason why Cricket South Africa now requires practical experience for umpires in South Africa to be able to write level 2 and level 3. But I do still feel it's a great idea, Vikram, for you to listen in and to tap into any umpiring resources that you can find anywhere around the world, because playing conditions are different all around the world. The actual stadiums and pitches and weather are very different when you go to the subcontinent versus what you get in South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, and England. So the same way that players improve their playing by going abroad and improving under different environments, I feel as umpires, we can do the same by learning from different boards. And yes, unfortunately, different boards, even test playing nations, don't all accept other qualifications from other test playing nations. For example, we always have to sort of fight and speak to people high up in the UK, for example, when we have umpires who leave South Africa and maybe move to London for a career change. They still want to umpire when they get there, but then their CSA qualifications are not recognized by the ECB. And I've had a case where the ECB umpire training officer has emailed me asking me for the questions of Cricket South Africa's Level 1 exam so that they can evaluate the standard that this umpire has passed. So unfortunately, they are not global qualifications. Currently, the International Cricket Council is in the process of rolling out a foundation phase course, a level 1 umpiring course, and a level 2 umpiring course will be starting in October this year, as far as I know. And that is going to be the first standardized umpiring qualification set around the world and should be recognized throughout the cricket playing world. And it is currently mainly being rolled out in countries that do not have their own umpiring qualifications. So when it will get to South Africa, when it will get to India, when it will get to the West Indies, I'm not sure. When it will get to India and Pakistan, I'm not sure, but eventually we will get there. At the moment, I am training umpire tutors in Africa for them to roll out ICC's Level 1 umpiring course. So you've got a theory element, which is done online, and then you've got a practical element that needs to be done through a course ran by those ICC umpire tutors in their specific countries. So it's not all straightforward and one qualification fits all the country's requirements, Vikram. Unfortunately, that would be too easy. So this is why every country seems to want to protect their own umpiring space with their own umpiring qualifications. I hope that answers your question, Vikram. From a personal point of view, from Dr. Malati, and also from a wider point of view from my side. Right, Vikram, you've got your hand up. Or you were just giving a thumbs up. Great, perfect.
Yeah, I was actually giving a thumbs up and accidentally pressed the raise button. But yeah, thank you for the explanation. That makes sense.
Okay, you're welcome. Already has put into the chat box, can level 3 passing candidates from other countries come on an exchange program during the season for practical umpiring and get CSA certification for level 3? Nomula, we do welcome umpires to come on exchange in South Africa, in Cape Town specifically, Western Province Cricket Umpires Association. But whether that will lead to that required practical element qualifying you to become CSA certified, I cannot answer that question right now. As mentioned, the slides that I showed to you at the beginning of this lecture are new information that we have been told about this morning. So we haven't unpacked such questions as you have asked. It's certainly something that we can look into, but for the time being, unfortunately, I cannot give you an answer for that. Next comment is from Vikram. He says, thanks for the detailed explanation. That was very helpful. I completely understand and relate to the reason for joining these sessions. The way Abdullah and Tom explain all the rules, it just sticks so well in the mind and helps to be super confident while umpiring out in the middle. So the more you listen to such good educators, it will only help. Thank you for the kind words, Vikram, and we hope to keep seeing you in our lectures, not just for this course, but future sessions as well. Nomula, you've got your hand up. Please unmute your microphone. The floor is yours.
The question is regarding today's lecture. It's on intervals on rings.
Sorry, Nomula, please go. Yeah.
Am I audible?
Your connection is not that clear, so I'm just having to strain to hear you. Please go ahead.
My question is on intervals for rings.
Yeah.
If the wicket falls within 5 minutes of the interval, the interval will be taken immediately. So now my question is in relation with the timeout rule.
Sorry, which interval, Nomula?
Drinks interval. Sorry, I forgot. Okay. Drinks interval. So if the wicket falls within 5 minutes of the drinks interval, it will be taken immediately. And now my question is regarding in relation with the timeout rule. So now will the batter have extra 3 minutes from the end of drinks interval? Because we are preponing drinks interval so as to maximize the amount of playing time, right? So will the batter have extra 3 minutes to take within his rights as per rules? Is my question. Because that does not make any sense now to prepone the interval and lose 3 minutes. Of course, it is within rights, it is within laws, but it doesn't make any sense, right?
Yeah, Nomula, my immediate reaction, and we'll just get Abdullah to confirm with any piece of law that hopefully does. My immediate reaction is that you wouldn't allow an extra 3 minutes as per law after the end of the drinks break for the batter to be ready. That would be wasting the time that you were trying to save by taking drinks at the fall of the wicket. So Abdullah, I'm not sure if you heard Nomula. He's asking if a wicket falls within 5 minutes of the drinks break, as per law, we take drinks immediately. But now, would the incoming batter be allowed, as per law, an extra 3 minutes after the end of the drinks break to be ready for the next delivery? Because as per law, the timed out law allows 3 minutes for the next batter to be ready.
No, Tom, that would defeat the purpose of why you took early drinks, to save a bit of time. This would then add another 3 minutes to it. So the answer is no. So as soon as the wicket falls, we will call for drinks. Drinks will then be 4 minutes. So the batter actually get an extra minute, to get to the crease. So no, we won't take 4 minutes drinks break, and then after 4 minutes, now the clock starts in terms of the timeout. So as soon as that wicket falls, we'll take drinks, but that incoming batter needs to come onto the field, and we will then want to bowl the first ball after drinks 4 minutes later. Over, Tom.
Thanks, Dula. S. Harnal has typed into the chat box, I agree with the last part that you learn more and get more knowledge with the scenarios and study material covered in different forums where laws are taught and discussed, which is always immensely helpful. However, as far as qualifications are concerned, no matter how many certificates and qualifications you acquire, you would only be able to learn more and get better and improve as an umpire by on-field experience, where you would be applying what you have learned with new scenarios and game situations that you deal with from game to game. 100% correct, Harnal. You improve as an umpire by standing in the middle and umpiring cricket matches. And that's exactly why Cricket South Africa want a practical experience minimum for umpires to write level 2 and write level 3 exams. So yes, as much as we try and relay theory of the law book to you guys in as practical a manner as possible. Abdullah gave some great examples today about how to change the times for intervals to be able to play more cricket. But I can guarantee you, for me specifically, I have learned or got to know these laws, and especially this interval, changes of intervals, by actually being involved in 3-day matches and 4-day matches where an innings ends 25 minutes before tea. Because the players are going to ask you, what happens now, umps? Do we take tea or are we coming back after 10 minutes? And you need to know those laws and not have to whip out your law book when the 10th wicket falls. So definitely I encourage all of you, as much as you are upskilling your theory knowledge in these lectures, to go out there on the park and apply the law and the playing conditions that we are helping you to understand. So yes, you are most welcome, S. Hardnall, to join us for further lectures. Conrad asks, what requirements do you need to become an umpiring tutor? I'm situated 3 to 4 hours away from my nearest umpiring association. So Conrad, you need to join an umpires association. You need to have level 1, level 2, and level 3. And then there is a 3-step process to qualify as an accredited Cricket South Africa umpire trainer. The first is to write and pass the Cricket South Africa umpire trainers exam. And then the second step of the process is to present an indoor presentation or online presentation on PowerPoint. And then the third step is to present outdoor practical training. And obviously the pass mark for the training exam is 80%. And then in terms of assessment of whether your indoor and your outdoor practical presentations are good enough will be done by a head of training of the Umpires Association or a training coordinator of the Umpires Association that you are part of. So you cannot, unfortunately, just become a qualified Cricket South Africa umpire trainer without having joined an Umpires Association. Being in sort of distant areas of the country makes it more challenging, but you will actually be adding to the cricketing knowledge of that area if you do get yourself accredited. It will mean a lot of traveling for you to the headquarters of your association to first get to level 3 and then become a trainer. But if that's your passion, then I encourage you to go for it. And someday you can join myself and Abdullah in delivering training online to the rest of the world. How about that for life goals for you, Conrad? Right, I do not see any further questions or comments in the chat box. I do not see any hands raised in the meeting room. So I'd like to thank all of you for your attendance and your interaction today. When I was reading out the, let's say, challenging news that we received from Cricket South Africa at the beginning of the lecture, I think there were 45 candidates in the meeting room, and I see there's still 38 candidates in the meeting room. So that just tells me that you are all here for the right reasons and you want to improve your knowledge and understanding and application of cricket. Stick with us. We'll take you to the right places. Thank you so much again for your time and attendance. We will reconvene on Thursday, same time, same place, same meeting link. Until then, have a good week. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you, guys.
Cheers.
Thank you, guys.